to the date of the general election. Equally, Section 10 of the Political Parties Act requires political parties who wish to form coalition political parties to submit coalition agreements to the Register of Political Parties at least 120 days to the date of the general election. It's important to note that Section 10 also requires political parties that form a post-election coalition to submit their coalition agreement to the Registrar of Political Parties within 21 days of the signing of the coalition agreement. Finally, on coalitions, it is to be noted that in terms of Section 7, subsection 9 of the Political Parties Act, a member of a coalition cannot be a member of another coalition. Honorable members and Honorable Speaker, the role of the Registrar of Political Parties comes way ahead before the Electoral and Boundaries Commission actually administers election, because we play a critical role in laying the ground for the political parties to be able to prepare themselves for the purposes of general election. And one of those things that we do, Honorable Speaker, is the certification of nomination rules and election rules of political parties. Section 27 of the Elections Act requires the registrar to certify party nomination rules for submission to the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission for use in party nominations. Further, the second schedule to the Political Parties Act requires the registrar to review the nomination and election rules at registration of political parties and whenever a political party proposes to amend the same in line with Section 20 of the Political Act, Cap 7D. Political parties, in terms of Section 28 of the Political Parties Act, are required to submit nomination rules to IEBC at least 6 months before the date of party nominations, activity that is preceded by certification of the nomination rules by the Registrar of Political Parties, as I did earlier mention. The other role that we play, Honorable Members and Speaker, as we get close to election, is the certification of party membership registers, which is at the custody of the Registrar of Political Parties. Section 28 of the Elections Act requires the Registrar of Political Parties to certify membership registers for subsequent submission to IEBC for use by political parties in party nominations. Section 28, subsection 1 of the Political Parties Act, Cap 7D, provides for submission of certified party membership registers by political parties to IEBC at least 120 days before the date of the general election and 45 days before the date of a by-election. Honorable members and Honorable Speaker, Section 28A of the Elections Act requires parties to submit their party membership lists to the Registrar of Political Parties 14 days prior to the submission to IEBC. Therefore, I still say that Kenya's legal framework provides for a close nomination of political parties. The other function, Honorable Members and Speaker, is the nomination by the parties, and that is Part 4 of the PPA requires the registrar to regulate political parties by ensuring that they comply with the provisions of the Act in conduct of party nominations, which includes parties using the allowable methods of nomination, which can be either direct or indirect, as I know many of you may be aware in your political parties. And Section 38 of the PPA also provides that there are two methods of nomination: direct nomination and indirect nomination. Direct party nomination means the process by which a political party, through its registered members, elects its candidate for an election. Indirect nomination means the process through which a political party elects its candidates through party members, but not only through all party members. The Registrar of Political Parties also spearheads the political parties' submission process of the following: the method through which they want to conduct their election, the dates of that nomination process, who are going to be the contestants. They submit a list of the delegates register for purposes of indirect nomination. They submit details of the election board, and they also submit signatories to the nomination certificates in the purposes of that nomination process. Honorable members and Speaker, the other function of the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, pursuant to Article 90 of the Constitution, as read together with Section 35 of the Elections Act, the registrar is expected to receive 98 lists from each of the political parties participating in elections by purposes of certification. So we receive 98 lists from every political party, so 98 from the 90 for the purposes of certification for election. And in fulfillment of Section 34 of the Parties Act, the registrar required to certify that the names appearing in the party list are names of members of the political parties submitting them. Honorable members and Speaker, the other function is the clearance of independent candidates. As you know, the functions of the registrar of political parties may be restricted to the political parties, but the independent candidates are also required to submit to the IEBC a document clarifying that they are not members of any political party. In 2017, there were 4,648 independent candidates. In 2022, there were 6,944 independent candidates. So all those people have to come for clearance in the office of the registrar of political parties as not having been members of any political party prior to that process. Honorable members and Honorable Speaker, capacity building of the political parties, the candidates, the agents, and the general public is a very critical role that this office plays. I have been in the election cycle before, and I can tell you that to the extent that the agents of every candidate and every party understand the process and the requirements of their role at the polling station is to the extent that we can have a fair and democratic elections at the polling stations. That becomes critical in terms of information to the agents of the political parties, agents of candidates. It becomes critical to the members of political parties to understand what their role is. It becomes critical to the public that what is it that is required of the political parties. And Honorable Speaker, we trained in previously 1,735 agents of political parties for purposes of preparation for election. Unfortunately, in the past, the just concluded by-elections, we have been strained because of resources that we didn't get, and we were not able to do this activity because there were no provisions in the budget in the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. So we provide training to the governing bodies of the parties. We provide training to the election boards. We provide training to the internal dispute resolution committees of the parties. And this is one of the arms we are really trying to make sure that we empower strongly so that we minimize the disputes of political parties and at least resolve them within the walls of the political party. To avoid them spilling over to the outside of the political party, it becomes very complicated, and it creates a lot of other challenges that we do not want to face. So as an office, we already initiated the program of training the internal dispute tribunal committees of the political parties. I think we are now in our last cohort of that training, which is happening next month. We have started with 4 cohorts. We have done with the first 3, and we are doing the last one this coming February for purposes of making sure that we prepare the political parties to handle their internal disputes within the walls of the political parties. Honorable Speaker, we also participate, of course, as a regulator, we participate in monitoring the campaigns, we participate in monitoring the nominations, we participate in monitoring the general elections. Because overall, this then informs our processes in terms of what we need to prepare as we tailor ourselves to the next general election. And Honorable Speaker and members, we also do collaborative activities with all the other organizations, the IEBC, the NIC, in terms of securing a peaceful election. And one of my dreams, honorable members and speaker, is that we will be able to have a national dialogue for political parties so that we can speak to ourselves. Ile wanasema tusemezane ukweli. Because the upcoming general election is our responsibility as parties, as citizens, and as a country. And I've always said, honorable members and speaker, as much as we have parties with large following and parties with small following, but we only have one country. And if it doesn't stand for all of us. And if it sinks for all of us. And for that reason, I really think it is important that the members of the political parties, the critical members, the secretary generals, the chairpersons, and the party leaders have a conversation on how they want to look at this animal called General Election 2027, which has presented itself in many forms that we may want to look at critically, including those that have no names, they have no leaders, they have no identity at all. What does that mean when we come to 2027? How does that present itself? And honorable members and speaker, as the registrar, I have a strong belief that we are called upon as you transition as a house. I think we are in a transition as a country. And I want to believe that transition can be fashioned or transition can take its own form. And for me, I believe that fashioning it will be better for us than allowing it to take its own form, because the consequences will be different. So for that reason, I do believe that there is a reason for the parties to discuss and agree on how we want to midwife this forthcoming general election. Honorable members and speaker, allow me now to go to the other subject on the Political Parties Fund. Section 23 of the Political Parties Act establishes the Political Parties Fund, and Section 24 requires the sources of the fund be not less than 0.3% of all the national government share of revenue as divided by the Annual Division of Revenue Act enacted pursuant to Article 218 of the Constitution. Since establishment of the Political Parties Fund, honorable members and speaker, the same has never been fully allocated fund required under the law. This has been subject of litigation before courts, including the following suits. The first one is the Civil Appeal number 15 of 2018, Orange Democratic Movement versus the National Treasury and others. And the second one was Constitutional Petition E494 of 2023, Orange Democratic Movement versus Speaker of the National Assembly and others. In the above two suits, the courts have upheld the need for Parliament to allocate the required funds to Political Party Fund. Without the Political Parties Fund, political parties may not play their role as provided under Section 26 of the Political Parties Act. Section 25 of the Act, honorable members and speaker, provides the distribution criteria of the Political Parties Fund as follows. 70% of the fund is distributed proportionately by reference to the total number of votes secured by each political party in the preceding general election. 15% of the fund is proportionately distributed to the political parties qualifying based on the number of candidates of the party from special interest groups elected in the preceding general election. And 10% of the fund is proportionately distributed to political parties based on the total number of representatives from the political party elected in the preceding general election. 5% of that fund is used for administrative purposes. Honorable members and Speaker, conditions for funding of political parties are provided under Section 25, subsection 2 of the Political Parties Act. A political party shall not be entitled to receive funding if more than 2/3 of its registered office bearers are of the same gender. That becomes a disqualification for that party to receive political parties fund. 2, the party does not have a member of its governing body, a representation of the special interest groups. And lastly, the party does not have either a governor, a member of National Assembly, a member of Senate, or a member of the County Assembly. Generally speaking, has no elected member of either of the houses. Currently, 47 political parties qualify for the fund. This is after the said Amani Congress was voluntarily dissolved in February of 2025. Why do we allocate funds to these political parties? The purpose of the fund, as provided for in the Act, is 1, to promote representation in Parliament and in the county assemblies of women, persons with disabilities, youth, ethnic and other minorities, and marginalized communities. And part of that fund allocated to that party, not less than 30% of the fund must be used to address those groups I have just mentioned. You can see how intentional the Office of the Registered Political Parties is in terms of actually working ourselves towards realizing the inclusion that we call for all the time. Secondly, that fund is for promotion of active participation by individual citizens in political life. So we expect the political parties to engage in an active role of ensuring that Kenyans participate, as also provided for in Article 38 of the Constitution. They're able to exercise their political rights in an environment that is fair, an environment that provides for their inclusion, and they are listened to as members of those political parties. And the third one is covering election expenses of the political party and broadcasting of the policies of the political party. So we expect that those will allow the political parties to express themselves and stand for the ideas that they propagate as political parties. We also expect the political parties to organize civic education and democracy and electoral processes within the parties and outside the parties for purposes of informing the public. We note that that fund provided to the parties, administrative function of the political party, that is paying for the staff and any other thing that is administrative, must not take more than 30% of the fund provided to the political party. Let me give you a rundown on how the provision of the political parties has been since the inception of the fund as contemplated by the Act. Honorable members and Speaker, in the year 22-23, what this office expected to get as an allocation of the political parties fund was 4,500,000. But the fund that was provided was 884,354,000. That translates to 0.059% of what was supposed to have been given to the political parties fund. In the following year, 2023-2024, the expected amount of the 0.3 allocation from the revenue was supposed to be 5,250,000,000. 292,299,282. But the office only received 800,300,000, which translates to 0.045 of the allocation that should have been given. In the last year, 2024-2025, the year we are in now, the overall allocation should have been 6,532,096,282. But the allocation given to the office was 1,228,300,000, which translates to 0.056 of the percentage that was expected. 2025-2026, the expectation of the fund was 7,620,461,708. But what was actually given was 1,978,300,000, which translates to 0.077%. So as I said earlier, we have never received the full allocation of the 0.3% as required by the Act and so established. I have already given you how this money is distributed to the political parties, and this goes 100% to the parties. There is no money that is allocated otherwise. You can be sure the members will not allow me to into any of those percentages that are provided, because they know very well. Honorable Speaker, the last thing I want to mention is our concerns and our budgetary requirements, just for the House to note. And I have identified the activities that we do, and I will spare us going into the details of them. But I will just say, Honorable Speaker, that in terms of the overall requirements, the registration what we need to do between now and the general election, in terms of registration and regulation of political parties, we require 380.4 million. In terms of ICT, ICT is a new entrant into the regulatory space of political parties, where we now have a digital platform where the political party records, the registers and the members are stored. We call it Integrated Political Party Management System. That has been established and has had a lot of great deal in allowing the parties to have a friendly use of the space in terms of membership. They can upload their members can register, and it has become a very efficient way of giving ourselves a platform as parties. And we require to improve that system even as we move forward in preparation for the next general election, and we need 118 million for that. We have capacity building, which I mentioned earlier, building the ability of the political parties to be able to run their affairs democratically and be able to be organs of democracy that can be expressed even outwardly as we come to the members of the houses. And that comes to around 383.5 million. Honorable Speaker, we have legal reforms that we require to undertake, as usual, of course, based on the updates of the gaps and the challenges that we have faced in the previous experiences and the elections we have had. And we are currently undergoing that reform process, trying to inform what we need to put as measures. We are looking at clarity on party nominations so that the process centers on party members. We are looking at the publication of coalition agreement, because we feel that sometimes the coalition agreements are not comprehensively understood by members. And so we feel that that needs to be given provision so that they are well understood where they sit. We also, Honorable Members and Speaker, seek for institutionalization of very pragmatic consequence for non-compliance of political parties. The political parties are not very happy with the Office of Registrar holding people accountable, for example, for the 24 offices, for the 1,000 membership in every county. And I'm told that that is too much. It costs too much. But when we read Article 91 of the Constitution, a political party is a national organ. It should reflect the needs of the Kenyan people. And so the political parties are not complying for the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. They are complying for the needs and access of the people of Kenya, to be able to access those parties, to be able to hold them accountable, to be able to participate. And they cannot do that if we have remote offices that cannot be accessed by the members of public. And so we need to see how we can institutionalize that in terms of the political parties. So we have a raft of reforms that we are presenting soon, honorable members and speaker, to the House for purposes of your contribution. And of course, you're looking at them and seeing how much that will be necessary for us to be able to realize the democracy that we require to have in the political parties. Honorable Speaker and members, in the current year that we are in, this is a plea for me, ORPP is critically underfunded during the 2025-2026 financial year. And we have actually been unable to undertake our mandate, even those ones that are very crucial. We were allocated 508 million for all office activities, including salaries, rent, medical insurance, utilities, contractual obligations, against a budget requirement of 1.6 billion. So we only received 508 million. If I can break that down further, I'll let you know that if you take out all the statutory requirements that we need to pay for, the rents and the other things, we only left with 132,986,722 to carry out all the activities, including contractual obligations and office programs and activities that we need to undertake. As a matter of fact, I think one person made a joke last week and said that the office of the registrar is given a budget that is less than that of a wedding committee and is expected to run a lot of activities. So, honorable members and speaker, we seek your support in this, that we may be able to realize the activities that we require. As we stand currently, I say that there are 32 professionally registered political parties, and for them to transit to fully registered political parties, we have to verify all the 24 county offices and the national offices for all those political parties across the country. That is a very expensive and tedious process. We have tried to summarize sometimes those activities so that we maybe have one or two parties. But remember, they also have constitutional timelines to be able to comply for purposes of full registration. So just for the 32 I mentioned, if they were to come on board tomorrow, then we will need not less than 3.9 million for each one of them to be able to go around all the offices that we have. As I wind up, Honorable Speaker and members, we had placed in our supplementary request also a few of the requirements on legal reforms, on upgrade of the system I talked about, automation of our processes as I mentioned, and the capacity building as mentioned. And that comes to around 322 million that we placed under the supplementary request budget. Honorable members and speaker, I have been told to wind up, and I'm actually done. I just want to say that I want to appreciate the opportunity that this House has given the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties to be able to at least present a snapshot of what the office represents and what the office does and what are the requirements that we have and what probably we seek in terms of interventions that we will kindly request the House to help us so that it can facilitate the processes that we need to undertake as an office. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Members, you agree with me that Mr. Cox has had a very good maiden journey with us today. Could you please just give him a befitting applause? And I know that you know that I allowed him to do something that we would not allow anyway. Mr. Cox, next time you must come with a PowerPoint presentation that has figures beamed here. And in fact, what we'd like to have during this session, ask your staff to give our staff your presentation. So that if you're asking about the money is required, we can show it. If political party is present, we can show it. Those registered, we want it on our screen. But also, if possible, share the same with members. It had a very good presentation, very good statistics, but it's only you as it now. So please share with us, if you can, to our staff so that they can beam those when the time comes. Members, I will open this to the plenary. And please, members, let's make it 2 minutes each at most. Then I would like to start from behind, actually. I can see the Honorable Salasia there. Let's start with Honorable Salasia. You can be sure if you are disciplined enough, everyone will get a chance to ask a question. That's 2 minutes. So we're going to have the Honorable Salasia, the Honorable Kamket, followed by the Honorable Oundo here, and the Honorable Tim Wanyonyi. Then we'll do this round, please. 2 minutes, please.
Asante. First, I want to appreciate the presentation that has been done. My concern is just about an amendment that maybe the Office of the Registrar of Political Party can try to help us do. Because you will realize that in most cases, Kenyans are having a problem with the independence of the parliament. And the problem starts with the political parties. Is there a way whereby, the Office of the Registrar do the amendments in the Political Parties Act that political parties should stop interfering with the arrangements of the parliament? Once the members of parliament are elected, they are given their own time to elect themselves amongst themselves. Like, for example, the issues of the committee, political parties should not have a way because it's one way. Like right now, you find like the chairman and vice chairman, they're having a lot of challenges. If now we are against any motion in the House, they are sanctioned. Be in the House at this time. We want to pass this. So there's a need for the political parties to help us amend the act.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the question is noted.
Asante.
It's about, if I may be colloquial, defections in the House and all that. Honorable Kaket, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate the presenter, the RPP. It's been very eloquent. Honorable Speaker, I would like to ask Mr. John Cox. I listened to him very carefully when he mentioned about the RPP conducting compliance audits for political parties, including sending inquiries to EACC, NIS, and other organs. Let me ask you, what is your view, or what does the law say about an impeached political leader being a leader or being a party leader? Thank you very much.
A very straightforward question. Honorable Oundo.
Thank you, moderator. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the presenter. And those of us who have been around can remember the days from Kanu as the only party to have a very minimal party in this country, and we are very grateful for the good work of Raila Amolo Odinga. My point of view is the issue of political hygiene. Indeed, one of the greatest undoing of democracy in this country is just political hopping from one point to another. You have clearly said that a person cannot belong to coalition parties at the same time. I don't know what is your take in this mess we are hearing now, broad-based, whatever it is called. What's your take in this mess, this embarrassing mess that's really retarding democracy in this country? Finally, on the issue of political parties, I do believe now budgeting is in our good hands. We'll resolve that issue once and for all. Thank you. Chair budget, I am sure you have heard.
Thank you. Honorable Tim Wanyonyi.
Thank you. I would like to ask how many political parties, I'm here, how many political parties have complied with this inclusion of persons with disabilities within their ranks? And also, increasingly, we've been having county assemblies that have no representation of people with disability within their ranks. Now there are about 22 or more. What have you done about that?
Thank you. I'll now move to this side, and I'll start down there with the Honorable KJ. Honorable, is this Honorable Nzengu? Another 4, the Honorable Kejens, the Honorable Nzengu, Honorable Odege, the Honorable Shakil, and then finally, the Honorable Nyamai.
Mr. Speaker, it is to first appreciate the presentation from Mr. John Cox Lorian-Co. And my question is also going along the question that was asked by an honorable member, and it is in regard to a party, a political party, sponsoring for presidency an individual who has been impeached by the House. And I would like to know how that sits in light of the fact that political parties, if they meet the parliamentary threshold, do get funding that comes from the public, and the parliament has the business of oversighting over these funds. So I'd like to know what is his position in the question of a political party sponsoring an impeached individual for political office, and especially for presidency.
Honorable members, before the next order. No, order, honorable members. Women, yes, but when I asked for you, you didn't carry your hands up. I picked those words. Order, Honorable Millie. Order. Order. Now, before the honorable member asks his question, all members, join me in welcoming the commissioners of IBC who have joined us this afternoon. They are all here, seated there, headed by the chairperson and the other commissioners, including my friend Lucy Ndumu, who is now commissioner and was the registrar of political parties. And on this question especially, Mr. Ethekon, this will be unceremonious, but this question about clearing an impeached person, prepare to help the registrar on that issue. Because I think it's a dual role that you also play. So even before the presentation, prepare to help in that particular question. Dr. Monzengu.
Thank you.
I'll come back to the women just after this.
As I appreciate the presenter, my question is not going to be directed to him. It's going to be directed to Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Wetang'ula. When they did the presentation, the opening remarks, we were not given the opportunity to probably clarify certain things. So quickly, I want to ask Honorable Speaker to clarify on the overlap that has always been there between the National Assembly and the Senate Assembly of a summoning of ministerial departments and state departments on the same, like the Committee on National Cohesion of the National Assembly will summon a certain institution.
Thank you so much, Honorable Nzengu. I'm certain in this program, there'll be a place for that. Please, yield the microphone. Okay. Please. Excuse me.
The other clarification is on World Declaration, where our spouses are supposed to also declare on our behalf, on their side, if they're working with the government, or about the wealth on the member of the parliament.
Thank you. Yeah. Honorable Dege, please, 2 minutes most.
Thank you very much, Chair. Listening to the presenter there, I realized the money is being given to political parties every year is 0 point something. And this money is well captured in the Constitution of Kenya. When are you planning to implement the law so that parties can get their areas?
Thank you. The Honorable Shabir.
Thank you very much. I think I'm one of the very few independent members of parliament who are not reassigned. I'm the only one. The question that I have is to register a party. The fee is only 24,000 shillings. Isn't it ridiculous that people who want to register a party only pay 24,000? Should it not be something substantial to keep from frivolous applications? Thank you.
Of course, it's more than that. Honorable Nyamai, it's not 24,000, it's more than that, but keep that question for answering.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to ask two questions. One concerning the number of political parties. Our search with the Honorable Kaluma shows that there are 119. You told us that we have 95. But The question is, each must have 24,000 members. Do you have an opportunity to check whether they are cutting across, or they are members who belong to several political parties at the same time? And are all these of almost 100 parties, as you said there are 98, are they all useful to this country? Then two, I would like to ask about the purpose of the funds. And I would like to, first of all, state a disclaimer that I'm not making reference to any political party.
Thank you.
But now, this money which is given to political parties, do you follow up to ensure that it is useful to the members of the party?
Thank you.
Or it is just a handbag or a kiosk for certain individuals to benefit from the parties? Thank you very much.
Member from Narok here. Just delete. The member next to the member from, yeah, please. No, come on. Everyone going to get a chance, please. Just chill out. This is the first round. You're going to come back.
Thank you. That was a very comprehensive input by the presenter. But I only have two questions. Question number one, when we came in Parliament, there was, who is the final referee on party matters? Because I remember one time, Azimio was the majority. At the second time, UDA was the majority. So I was wondering, who counts these figures? Who controls them? Who decides? That is my question number one. Question number two, as I heard him talk, I'm praying the speaker you bring the chairman of National Cohesion and Internal Integration. He put in sense in us. But as I sit here, I feel we more urgently need the chairman, who is the Commission of National Cohesion and Internal Integration Commission. Because I think what is burning this country now urgently, we need to know what those guys are doing in this country.
Thank you.
We can't be fighting everywhere and they are getting salaries. Thank you.
Then Bomilio Diambo, you wanted to ask a question? All members, I will request that we allow him to answer this first round, then we come back.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker or temporary speaker. My question was, why are you leaving women out when they are carrying their hands? But you have already addressed. Otherwise, I'm okay so far with the presentation.
Then I will give that chance to Karoli Omondi as the last one on this. He chairs a caucus on these political party issues, so I would like his answer to be given alongside this.
Thank you very much, Honorable David Oche. Just a few comments, and I think it was a very good presentation. Number one, I think our Constitution has two pathways to elective offices. One is running through a political party, the other one is running as an independent candidate. I think it is time to open political party funding to independent candidates, because the criteria is the number of votes that somebody gets is one of the qualifications. And it is very bad when an independent candidate wins and his votes do not count when it comes to political party funding. So I think we need to open that. Number two, I think it is time that we use political party funding to drive the quest for two-thirds gender rule. Instead of saying the registered officers are two-thirds so you qualify, it should be that your elected members are two-thirds, then you qualify for political party funding. That is a correct incentive that will make us get quicker to two-thirds gender rule. Number three, I think we need to make the registration of political parties easier. This definition of national character, that you must have 24 offices in 24 counties and 1,000 members per county, meaning 24,000, is itself unconstitutional, because the right of a person to association cannot be made contingent on having 24,000 other people willing to associate with you. If you look at the UK, what do they need to register a political party? You fill a form, you pay £150, you take 3 names, you take a name, emblem, a constitution, and a financial scheme, and you get it in 2 days.
Thank you.
So we need to change all these things. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I take it that the Honorable Karoli's are comments. Mr. Cox, you decide whether you want to add on the comments or not. I mean, they are comments. They are indeed comments. They're not questions. I would request Mr. Cox to proceed and answer. All of them, including Karoli Omondi's.
Thank you, honorable members and Speaker, for those very good questions and comments. I would want to provide us with a few of the questions that you asked. First, I will start with the issues that was asked. I think the decision as to who constitutes the majority and the minority is a function of the House. And I think as registrar, I only govern political parties in the process of delivering candidates for election. And when those candidates end in Parliament, they fall in the hands of the Honorable Speaker. And the political party registrar cannot attempt to regulate what Parliament does. So for that, I think I will leave it at that and hope that it will be taken that way. Political parties hygiene. I think I did speak to this earlier, if you were listening to what I said. You know, I know we love football in this country. When a team is in discussion on who becomes the captain of the team, the referee has no rule, has no role over that either. But when the team gets to the field, the captain has to be identified. And for the registrar of political parties, I can only regulate parties, I can regulate coalitions as per the provisions of the Political Parties Act and the Constitution. If people decide to have political engagements and arrangements outside the regulations of the office of the registrar, it's a little bit hard to regulate that which has not been brought to the framework of what you have been provided for and given to do in the Constitution. So I do believe that it may be need, and that's why I said earlier that we probably, I'm happy that the chair of the commission is here. Probably we may need to have ile inaitwa tusemezane ukweli as Kenyans and as leaders of political parties, because part of the insanity in the parties is what boils up to the general election. And we need to discuss and agree ourselves, how do we make this better for ourselves, not for anybody else. So in terms of what the political hygiene can be, and whether we can work and do what broad-based government, whether the other coalition should join the other coalition, I can only regulate how coalition becomes a legal coalition, how a political party becomes a legal political party for purposes of election. In terms of inclusion, I think I did speak to this earlier too, that part of the requirement of the fund for political parties is that they have actually, part of the allocation is their representation of the special interest groups. In the reforms that we are proposing, we are attempting to request for a discussion around the special interest groups and around marginalized groups, so that then you have a party that gives you nominate a youth who is a woman who is also a PWD as representing the SIGs. So you have one person representing everybody because they fit in that category. And so, you know, progressively we need to think about how do we then make the parties comply in terms of those categories individually as they stand, so that there is a woman, there is a youth, and there is a person with PWD represented, as opposed to one person representing everything. So those are some of the proposals we have in the Constitution, in the proposal, sorry, that we have. Honorable member asked about the registration fees. I think registration fees for you to be a provisionally registered political party, you have to pay a fee of 100,000. And for you to be a fully registered political party, you have to pay a fee of 500,000. So it is not 24,000. That is the fee as it stands as of now. Member asked about the memberships and whether it is possible to have members who are also members of another parties and they are considered to be members of another. The system I talked about, which is the integrated political party management system, segregates and restricts membership to every party. You cannot belong to two political parties at the same time. So you are either in one or you are in the other or you have no party at all. So the system cannot allow you to belong to two political parties at the same time. So that is already dealt with by the system. And we need to improve that so that it includes other processes. Even now, you even know as political parties, if you understand the processes of your party and registration, you cannot register anybody remotely now. If you attempt to register anyone, when you put their ID in the system, there will be a prompt sent to the cell phone number of that individual, asking them whether they are registering themselves as a member of this party. And they can consent or they can decline. So that is how far the system has allowed us to be able to mitigate around the issues of political parties being just run around. Somebody said whether we need all these parties. Why do we have all these parties? I think that is a valid question, but it is also a constitutional question because we gave ourselves Article 4. You know, the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democracy. We have not capped that on any number. We haven't said there will be only 200 parties. We just said it will be a multi-party democracy. But I always tell the parties, you know, when people read the Bible and they misquote, that article is complete and says a multi-party democracy founded on two things: national values and principles of good governance. So we must see our political parties to be able to exhibit those two things, that they are political parties founded on national values, they are political parties founded on principles of good governance. But as to the number, that is something that probably we may need to rethink how our constitution is crafted and whether we need to look that up. Follow up to the fund. What do we do when parties get the fund? One of the things we do is that the parties actually, first of all, every political party submits a work plan that says these are the activities we have stipulated for this particular year. Again, it's a requirement of compliance for us. But for you to be able to follow up the activities of the 90 political parties, you would need a lot of facilitation for that. But we hold them accountable to that work plan that they send us. And then equally, these accounts are audited by the Auditor General. And they have to, that report is sent to the party and it's also sent to us. Earlier, I gave you the breakdown on the qualified and the unqualified reports, and those that have disclaimers based on the Office of the Auditor General report. We also have the parties publish their statements of accounts on their website and at least on one public reading newspaper. So those are parts of accountability so that then members are able to be able to see that. Of course, the other problem I have, honorable members and speaker, is that you can only hold anyone accountable to the extent that you understand. If you have no information of what to hold them accountable for, there is no way you can hold anybody accountable. And so the public and the members of the parties need to understand the processes of the parties so that they themselves can hold their own parties accountable in the interest of democracy. Now, who is the final referee in terms of matters? This is an issue, I think, that is in court. And I wouldn't want to mention this. I wouldn't want to get into it. But who is the final referee on party matters? Of course, the office has a role, and which is very well stipulated, and we leave that to the outcome of the court. The request as to whether we should have funds allocated to independent candidates. Again, it's a constitutional question. Do we want then to review the provisions that we have and provide for the allocation of funding to an independent candidate who is an individual in this case? And so how will that work and how will that function in terms of execution of that fund? Now, someone mentioned the fact that we need to make the fund become a drive for the 2/3 gender rule. And I agree with you. And I already mentioned earlier that already in the process of registration of political parties, we subject parties to represent, to give us that two-thirds gender compliance in the organs that they have, so that then we progressively impress. You know, we have to look at the office of the registrar not micromanaging the roles of the parties as independent entities, but providing an avenue for them to actually improve our road to democracy by embracing what we have given ourselves in our constitution. Make registration easier. Again, we have to look at what we have provided already as the parameters for registration. Is it punitive? And my question is always, is it punitive to the party, or is it punitive to the citizens of Kenya? Because the question has to be to what provides the best access, the best opportunity for citizens to access democracy. So we need to assess that process. Who is it punitive to? Is it something that is difficult for the party, or is it difficult for the citizen, who is the final consumer of the services of the political parties, and of course the services of the registrar of political parties? I think there's one question that I think I needed to handle. I think there's one question around the impeachment process, and I think we are a constitution compliant office. As I said earlier, we also have these leaders, these proposals of leadership from the parties subjected to the offices that have capacity to investigate and give us feedback on the standings of those people that are presented as leaders. And so if the report that has been presented to us does not indict anybody, then as an office, we do not have the capacity to have another option. That is one. Two, we have provisions in the Constitution, including our own Political Parties Act, Section 13, that says anybody who has been disqualified by the Constitution and any other laws as per the practices of the Act stands disqualified. But we also have Article 25, which again speaks to how do we disqualify citizens from participating. So what I want to say is we comply to the laws that already exist in terms of who qualifies to be a leader of a party as per the stipulated regulations of the Political Parties Act and the provisions of the Constitution that we have. I think I have given justice to all the questions, unless there's one that has skipped my note probably. Thank you. Thank you.
I agree with justice to the questions, and if anyone is not satisfied, he'll be over lunch. He can be able to take another round. So another round of questions will be the last. I'll start with the Honorable Martin Peters, the Honorable McLeod. I'll come to Honorable Minority Whip, the Honorable Minority Whip and Minority Leader. And I think the last one would be, I can't see. That's member for Marakwet West. Okay, great. Let's go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is simple. We as membership of these parties, we don't approve their budgets. And you have just presented to us that 32 have got qualified audit queries, and others have got qualified. Now, you as the person who funds them, what parameters do you use to make sure that the money you give them are utilized accordingly, or you just rely on audit report? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable McLeod.
I have one question and one comment. Number one, how to ensure that political parties, when doing their primaries, will strictly comply by using their political parties register. Because in this country, most political parties, during the time of nomination, they use IEBC register rather than their own registered for parties. Secondly, Chairman or Speaker, can we just tell us the truth? Because we have seen, Rianago, we have seen that one political vehicle dies before the next political vehicle. If you can see how political parties have been going on in this country of late, is that one regime starts with one party, and in their second term, they are in another party or another coalition. It means that there is no sanity, there is no dignity, there is no order of political parties that have an ideology in which citizens own and follow. What happens is that we follow our regional kingpins, we follow our leaders, wherever they go, even if they go today, we all go in that direction. It means we don't have a serious ideology on what we want as a country in a political party system, just like in America and other places.
Give the mic to your neighbor here. No, give the mic to Honorable Mwinyi. Give the mic to Honorable Mwinyi over there before you bring it up. The Honorable Mwinyi just next to Honorable Maklap. No, give it to the Honorable.
Let me ask you a simple question. What happens when a party is given the 6 months probation period and it expires?
What happens when a party is given the 6 month probation period and it expires? I hope you don't have that down. Give it, the next person was not supposed to be. The other side, Marakwet West. It's okay. I'll come like this.
Thank you for the eloquent presentation. One, CEO, what happens, what do you think should happen in terms of internal regulation of political parties? Because sometimes internal regulations compromise the credibility of elections. Do you think we should regulate through the law? Number two, in terms of the registration of political parties, what happens if a political party is deregistered, whereas it has members already elected to the National Assembly, the Senate, or the county assemblies? Finally, in terms of legal reforms, you've said that you are following up on legal reforms. Now, the current Political Parties Act, as constituted, only regulates political parties. Now, as a member elected through as an independent member of parliament, I find that there are so many gaps. There is a lacuna in law in terms of regulation of independent candidates. Do you think it is time that the Political Parties Act is amended to include independent candidates or independent elected leaders?
Thank you. Honorable Batandi here. Then Honorable Mutunga, then finally Honorable Mbui.
Thank you. The law requires Parliament to allocate 0.3% of audited and approved revenues to political parties fund. This means for this financial year, we are supposed to allocate about 6.9 billion to political parties. We have not been able to do this since the fund was created. But departmental committees in charge of this fund have always disagreed with us. They have said, you do not need this amount of money. I wanted you to maybe tell members whether does political parties need these humongous amounts of money, 6.9 billion, in case of this financial year. And also, because some political parties have gone to court and they have secured orders compelling us to be able actually to allocate these funds in arrears. So this dilemma is with us. We want to know whether, do we need all this amount of money to go to political parties? Do you think this money is necessary? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to ask John, do political parties are they living organs? What I mean by living organs is that at the point of registration, they should have at least 24,000 people, members. And then there is party hopping. I mean, there is changing through the app from one party to the other, which means the number of members keep changing. How do you verify whether they're qualifying 24, or is it mandatory that they should remain 24 and above? We need to know that. The other issue is that that's the reason why I'm calling it living. If they are living, they should have 24 plus always. The other issue is with the resource constraints, and then data being very useful and important in this case. How would you rate your credibility of your data? You've told us how resource constrained you are. And how does your data measure up with that of IEBC? How often do you two, as an institution, compare what you have? Because during nominations, IEBC data is used, and then we don't know whether these people really are part of the, I mean, they're also registered. The final thing I want to find out is when people do go for, I mean, when you look at the number of political parties we have, some of them are very old. Do you have information to verify these parties are still in keeping with the requirements?
Thank you. Honorable Mbui.
Yeah, thank you, party leader of MDG. Now, one of the perennial problems that we have in facing political parties is in the registration of members. Many times when you even attempt to register people, you find they've been registered in parties without their consent. How do you intend to deal with this problem once and for all? Because it's really a serious menace in this country. That's one. The second one, I want to refer you to the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Article 91, which deals with political parties, 91.2 on the basic requirements for political parties. And it indicates that a political party shall not be engaged in violence or intimidation of opponents, C, establish a militia or similar organizations, and D, engage in bribery. Now, these vices are very rampant. I mean, if you watch news, you see those happening almost every weekend. So what I'm asking is, what action do you intend to take against these parties that are notorious for this kind of problems? Is it possible for you to deregister them, including even if it is a ruling party? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think very interesting questions. Remember, just remind you as Mr. John comes over, that even as in Parliament, we have a special committee that audits the Auditor General's findings of political party funds. I don't know who chairs it. Special funds must be done by Honorable Fatuma. Yeah, she should be able to tell us also how the political parties are doing in terms of how they use their funds. Bwana Cox, kuja.
Thank you. Thank you again, honorable members and honorable speaker. Pick those questions that we have put across. I think some of them speak to things I already addressed earlier. And probably a few of them may be things that may need to speak to. Now, there was the question of the money, which I think I had spoken to earlier, whether how do we ensure that this money is spent in the way that it's stipulated by the Act. And I think I did give us some of the things that the parties do, one of them being submission of their plans for how they plan to do the activities for that year, and also the submission of their accounts, which are open to the Auditor General for purposes of reviewing them. Against what they presented, and those become compliance documents. Parties professionally registered. From that date of the issuance of the certificate, they have 270 days within which to now apply and come on board to full registration. If they don't comply within those that framework, then the certificate expires and they will be forced then to again redo the process, because they have to keep themselves alive to that time frame that is provided for them. I think I did speak earlier that section 7, subsection 9 of the Political Parties Cap 7D speaks of a party cannot belong to more than one coalition. And a member of a coalition cannot belong to another coalition. I think I did go through that section earlier when I was doing my presentation. And I think there was also the question of deregistration. What happens when a party is deregistered? There is a process when a party is deregistered regularly, then there is provision for the memberships, especially those who are in active leadership roles, to make choices of where they want to go, and that the law that says they will be seen to have moved will not apply to them, because then it's providing for them an opportunity to continue the representation process of their respective areas where they come from. There are two questions I want to tie together. One is, how do you make sure political parties are living organs? And the other one is internal regulation of political parties, which becomes a serious issue in terms of credibility for election. And this is true, because we cannot have different levels of integrity. Accountability of integrity takes, it doesn't matter which position of leadership you are in. I think it's important at all levels. And that's why I said earlier that part of our desire, part of what as an office I think we need to do is two things. One is to strengthen the internal organs of the political parties to be able to manage themselves and actually discipline themselves. Because they are entities, we do not also want to be micromanaging those parties, but we need to strengthen the internal organs to function so that when there are disputes, they're able to contain them. And they are not run down by their own memberships in terms of the leadership, but they're able to control them. And the second one is we need to sensitize the public. The public who are actually the members of these political parties need to have enough information about the parties, how the parties function, how the parties are supposed to comply to the Political Parties Act, so that then the wider base of accountability of the parties is not just within the party, but also within the membership of those parties, where they come from. So that, to me, becomes a broader base for the purposes of holding our parties accountable and making them decent. Do we need to do reforms to have independent candidates regulated? Again, it's a conversation that we need to have. How will that look like? I mean, there was the proposal of whether we need to have them provided for in the political parties fund, and whether now we need to have them provided for in terms of regulation so that they do not become, runaway members who have no regulator because they are independent candidates. Then how do we put that in terms of what the Constitution says and what the Act says so far? But I would say that in terms of the reforms that we are right now, we have not featured the issue of the independent being considered probably as one of the people to be regulated, neither the consideration for the fund. So it's something that we're looking for to see how that is going to look like as we move on. The issues of memberships in the system, I think I did speak to this and said that the system is allowing us to be able to control how members move from one party to the other. As opposed to maybe previously, for those who came on board earlier, we didn't have a system as such. But now we have a system that actually has a very good control, that you cannot register as a member of two political parties. Neither can you include somebody in a party without their consent. Neither can a party also join another, can an individual join a party without the consent of the party. Because when you apply to be a member of a party, then the party gets notification and then have to consent for you to be a member of that party. So it works both ways. Now, in terms of integration roles, I think you know that I've mentioned earlier that IEBC and ORPP have no options. We are joined at the hip because of the processes that we have. I mentioned about the nomination rules. I talked about political party registers. I talked about political party nominations. All those processes are certified by ORPP and are submitted to the Electoral and Boundaries Commission for purposes of elections. So we have to speak to each other in more than one way for us to be able to hold the parties accountable. And even the issue of party lists, the parties have to bring their lists to the registrar for certification, and then those lists are submitted to Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission for purposes of use in elections. The registers of parties are held in the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. So how do we then subject the parties to compliance in terms of using those registers during nomination? And I think mentioned earlier that when parties are almost doing their nomination processes, they come to collect certified registers of that party at that point in time to say that this is the register of party A at this point in time. Now, we do monitor the processes, and probably what we may need to find out is how much do we want to provide in terms of holding parties accountable to that compliance that can go to the office of the registrar of political parties in terms of holding the parties accountable and maybe punitive measures that can be given, maybe a punishment. Maybe those are issues that we need to look at and see how much then we can punish for issues of not complying. Whether everybody has 47 offices, 24,000 members, we have clinics for every year of all the 90 registered political parties. And all of you are members of parties. I have the status. I will also invite you as members. Can you go and do a ground check whether your party is actually compliant? I am sure at the beginning of this year, I wrote a letter to all the 90 political parties highlighting the areas where they need to comply, even as we move towards 2027. Of course, remember, we are not there to punish. We are trying to improve our democratic processes, but we also have to practice that within a framework that is constitutionally provided for. And that is why the compliance is important. Yes?
Just let him wind up. He will. Let him just wind up on the question he has. He has a question by order. You're going to get a chance after this. Just finish with this question, then he's going to get the mic. Give him the mic just after this.
Okay, so I was talking about the integration, and I said we have a lot of integration that we have in terms of registers. Remember, as parties register for themselves to be political parties, we have to confirm that those 1,000 members from every county are registered voters. And the only way we can do that is consulting the register of IEBC, which is the only custodian of registration of voters. I think we can leave it there and take the next set.
There are two more questions you didn't answer. One was whether you need the political parties fund by the Honorable Batandi, and another one by Rubo Mbui about compliance by political parties on violence, bribery, and those. Those two have not answered.
I think I did speak to the one about the violence. Because part of this violence comes from probably the nominations of the political parties, and it springs from not being compliant to the regulations, which you have the Constitution, the political party nomination rules, which you submit. And so I think what we have not probably provided for is what type of punishment can register of political parties give to a party in terms of not complying with the rules at the point of nomination of candidates for election in that process. But that provision of the rules come to us. But they are your rules. We don't make them for the parties. The parties make them and submit to us for certification, for purposes of practice in terms of those offices. Do we need the fund? I think from what I said earlier, we gave the uses for what the fund is provided for. And part of the challenges we have, probably in the parties, that they may not be able to comply to most of these things is because we cannot provide funds that we do not have. Because what we receive is what we distribute to the parties according to the percentages provided by law in terms of the 70%, the 15%, 10%, and the 5%. That is all we can give. So whatever amount comes is what we divide to fit in the percentages as distributed in the fund criteria that is provided by the Act.
Thank you. Honorable Mwinyi, please.
Asante sana Bwana Mwenyekiti. Tatizo langu kwa ndugu yetu anayetuzungumzia saa hizi ni kwamba hatujaona mpaka sasa wewe umechukua role gani kuhakikisha hivi vyama vya kisiasa vimestawi katika nchi yetu. Napenda kumpongeza Bwana Spika, chama chake ni Ford Kenya kutoka 1990 mpaka leo. Lakini nikupe mfano, Uhuru Kenyatta aliingia muhula wake wa kwanza na chama chengine, muhula wa pili chama chengine. Na hawa watu wanaopiga kura hawana chama, ni vile siasa inavyokwenda kitaifa, wao wanaenda namna hiyo. Leo katika mifumo yetu hii ya siasa, unaona mtu anaweza mpigia rais kura, akampigia women rep mwingine kwa chama chingine, na kwa fupi hatuna vyama ndani ya nchi yetu ya Kenya. Huno mfumo ambao waitwa mfumo wa chama kama ANC in South Africa, kama CCM in Tanzania, mbona hapa kwetu haujastawi? Na je, wewe una mikakati gani ya kuhakikisha watu wanakaa katika vyama vyao na wanaenda na sera ambazo wameweka katika hizi vyama vyao? Otherwise saa hizi huyu atakuja atasema this time ndiko na policy hii, mwingine akija ana policy ile, and then hatutakuwa na maendeleo ya nchi. Kwa sababu gani? Hatuna mfumo ambao unatuelekeza mahali popote. Asante sana bwana mwenyekiti. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I agree with you 100%, honorable member. I think it's a question that we need to. I'm happy that we are all seated here as members of political parties. I think the critical question is, how do we then institutionalize our political parties to the extent that they outlive faces of people, they outlive time, they become institutions that preserve democracy in themselves? And I think that's a question that we need to address. And what we are doing right now, I would say, as of the recent past, we actually require parties to submit to us a statement of ideology. It is a starting point. What do you want to stand for? What is it that you think you want to fill that the 92 or the 90 have not already filled in terms of the space that we have? What do you want to speak to in terms of a political party? And the second question is, what is that compelling reason that will sustain you as a party for the next 100 years? Because unless you have a compelling reason as a party, you will not outlive the people who started the party. But if you have a compelling reason, then you will have a reason to exist even beyond the faces that you see. And probably, as I said earlier also, part of what we need to impress is the transition that we talked about. And part of me says we need to ensure that as we wind as political parties, we have the issues of giving ourselves fresh leadership so that they're able to take the parties to new fronts every time. Because faces are changing, the social network is changing, everything else in the world is changing. And parties have to live to that. Because if we don't, then we will have parties that only last a cycle of election and they are gone. But it is an issue that the parties have to speak to individually, because they then need to establish organs that will ensure that that party does not run because of 1, 2, 3 people, but runs because it has a reason to live and last for a long time, to know from today. Thank you very much. That's a valid concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, we are agreeing that Mr. John Cox has done justice to the topic we have. May you give him a better applause for the good job done. And I want to thank you, members, for your patience and active participation. We have an equally interesting topic coming up after lunch. That is the IBC and electoral management towards the next elections. So, members, at this juncture, I would want to invite you for lunch. We'll go for lunch right away. It's now 2:23. Our lunch will last 45 minutes. So we'll come back here at 3:15 on the outermost. And I would like to invite Mr. John Cox and your team. I would like to invite my friend Ethekon and his team for lunch with us, and be back here by 2:15. Lunch is served in the tent right in front of us as we walk out. Welcome for lunch, and God bless you all. Asanteni sana.